Danny Hayes tried to steady his shaking hands as he watched the human ship through his monitor. The Liberty looked dangerous with its weapons charged and shields glowing. Every instinct told him that the humans were about to attack, and his training said to strike first. His finger slipped. The control panel beneath his hand was designed for steady, experienced operators, not nervous young officers in their first real battle. When Danny's sweaty finger hit the firing control, it activated what the Kalari considered a minor weapons test. Just a small energy pulse to check their targeting systems. The pulse shot across space in a fraction of a second, a beam of pure energy that struck the Liberty's hull near the engineering section. It was meant to be harmless, barely enough to scratch the paint on a normal ship. But the USS Liberty was not a normal ship. "We're hit!" shouted Lieutenant Pete Davis from the weapons station. "Minor damage to hull section 7. No casualties." Captain Jake Morrison felt anger rise in his chest. The aliens had fired first, despite all attempts at peaceful communication. "Return fire," he ordered. "Show them we're not defenseless." But before Pete could target the alien ships, something strange began to happen. Chief Engineer Amy Clark stared at her control panel. In amazement, the readings made no sense. "Captain, the temporal core is going crazy. The alien energy pulse hit something it shouldn't have." The temporal core was housed deep in the Liberty's engineering section, surrounded by experimental equipment that humanity barely understood. When the alien pulse struck the ship's hull, it sent vibrations through the metal structure. These vibrations reached the temporal core at exactly the wrong moment, when the device was cycling through its mysterious operations. "What kind of crazy?" Jake asked, though he was already noticing something odd. The alien ships on his display screen seemed to be moving slightly slower than before. "The core is creating some kind of field around our ship," Amy replied, her voice filled with wonder and fear. "I've never seen readings like this. It's like we're separated from normal space-time." Dr. Helen Wright, the ship's chief scientist, rushed onto the bridge with a tablet full of data. She was breathing hard from running through the corridors, and her gray hair was messy from working in the laboratory for 18 hours straight. "Captain, you need to see this," she said, showing him the tablet. "The alien pulse interacted with our temporal core in a way we never predicted. We're creating a localized time distortion field." Jake looked at the numbers on the screen, but they might as well have been written in an alien language. "Explain it in simple terms, Doctor." "Time is moving differently for us than for them," Helen said, pointing at the alien ships. "From our perspective, they're slowing down. From their perspective, we're speeding up. The effect is getting stronger every minute." On the alien flagship, Admiral Zexathera watched in confusion as the human ship began to behave strangely. The Liberty's movements became smooth and deliberate, as if it was moving through thick liquid. But somehow, it also seemed more dangerous than before. "What did you do?" Zexathera demanded, turning to Commander Kethren. "I fired a simple targeting." "Pulse," Kethren replied, his mechanical voice showing confusion for the first time. "It should have been harmless. My sensors show the human ship is now existing in multiple temporal states simultaneously. Captain Veltar from the Nexari ship sent a psychic message to the other commanders. Something is very wrong. I can barely sense the human minds now. It's like they're moving away from us through time itself." The ancient Captain Morden finally spoke, his voice carrying the weight of countless centuries. "I have seen this before, in the old legends. Some races can step between moments when threatened, but I thought those stories were myths." Back on the Liberty, the crew began to understand their incredible advantage. Commander Lisa Park watched the tactical display with growing excitement. "Captain, the alien weapon charges are slowing down. Their communications are lagging. We can see everything they're doing before they finish doing it." Pete Davis grinned as he targeted the alien ships. "It's like they're moving in slow motion. Sir, I can predict where they'll be and fire before they even start moving." Jake felt a mixture of excitement and worry. This was clearly a powerful advantage, but he didn't understand how it worked or how long it would last. "Dr. Wright, is this field stable? Are we safe?" Helen studied her tablet again, running calculations in her head. "I don't know, Captain. The field is growing stronger, but I can't predict what will happen if it reaches critical levels. We might become completely separated from normal time." Amy Clark's voice came over the intercom from engineering. "Captain, I'm trying to control the temporal core, but it's not responding to normal commands. The alien pulse created a feedback loop that's feeding on itself." From the alien perspective, the battle had taken a terrifying turn. The Liberty began to move with impossible grace, dodging attacks that hadn't even been fired yet. Human communications came through their translators at high speed, making the aliens sound like children speaking slowly. Commander Kethron tried to target the human ship with his most advanced weapons, but every shot seemed to miss by impossible margins. The Liberty would move just enough to avoid each attack, as if its crew could see the future. "This is not possible," Zexathera growled. "No race has technology this advanced. The humans are supposed to be primitives." Lieutenant Danny Hayes, the officer who had accidentally started everything, watched his instruments with growing fear. "Sir, our targeting computers can't lock onto the human ship. Every time we acquire a target, they're somewhere else before we finish aiming." The Liberty's crew worked with calm efficiency, having all the time they needed to plan each move. Jake studied the tactical situation and realized they had gained the ultimate advantage in space combat: the ability to act while their enemies could barely react. "Launch fighters," he ordered. "Let's see how they handle multiple targets moving at different time speeds." Lieutenant Commander Nick Brown led the Liberty's fighter squadron out of the launch bay. As the small ships left the temporal field around the mothership, they returned to normal time speed. To the aliens, it looked like the fighters had materialized from thin air, appearing instantly around their formation. The alien coalition found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to exist outside the normal rules of physics. Every tactical advantage they had gained through centuries of warfare meant nothing against opponents who could move between moments like ghosts. Admiral Zexathara made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. "All ships, full, assault. Use everything we have. If we can't fight them fairly, we'll destroy them with raw power." The alien fleet opened fire with weapons that could shatter moons. The massive human ship floated in the darkness of space like a metal mountain. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, watching the stars through the main window. His ship was 15 kilometers long and packed with the best technology humanity could build. It was their first Titan-class vessel, designed to match the giant ships that alien races use to rule the galaxy. "Captain, we have contacts," said Commander Lisa Park from her position at the tactical station. Her fingers danced across the control panel as she read the incoming data. "4 ships, different designs. They're big, sir, really big." Jake nodded and walked closer to the main display screen. The alien ships appeared as bright dots against the black background of space. Each one was at least as large as the Liberty, and they moved with the confidence of predators who had never met their match. "Any response to our greeting messages?" Jake asked. "Nothing, sir," replied Lieutenant Danny Hayes from the communications console. They're scanning us, though. Deep scans. The kind you do before a fight. The alien fleet belonged to a coalition of 4 races that controlled this part of the galaxy. The Vorthons were warriors who loved battle more than peace. The Kalari built machines that could think faster than most living beings. The Nexari could read minds and move objects with thought alone. The Threnodi were ancient and mysterious, older than human civilization itself. Admiral Zexathara commanded the lead ship from his position on the Vorthon Bridge. His red skin glowed with anger as he studied the human vessel. "Look at this primitive thing," he said to his officers. "They think they can build something to match our dreadnoughts." The human ship was indeed impressive in size, but to Zexathara's experienced eye, it looked clumsy and simple. The hull design was basic, the weapon ports were obvious, and the entire ship screamed of a race trying too hard to copy their betters. "Shall we destroy them now?" asked Commander Kethran from the Kalari ship. His mechanical voice showed no emotion, but his ship's weapons were already charging. "They have entered Coalition space without permission." "Wait," came the psychic voice of Captain Veltar from the Nexari vessel. "I sense something strange about these humans. Their minds are different, chaotic, but determined." The 4th ship remained silent. Captain Mordoon of the Threnodi rarely spoke, but his ancient vessel moved into position with the others. The 4 alien ships formed a diamond pattern around. The Liberty, a formation designed to prevent escape. On the Liberty's bridge, Chief Engineer Amy Clark's voice came through the intercom. "Captain, I'm getting weird readings from the temporal core. Nothing dangerous, just unusual." The temporal core was humanity's attempt to understand alien technology. They had captured pieces of enemy ships over the years and tried to figure out how they worked. The core was their best guess at recreating alien temporal manipulation, though they weren't entirely sure what it actually did. "Keep monitoring it, Amy," Jake said. He turned to Lisa Park. "What's our tactical situation?" "Not good, sir. 4 ships, all armed with weapons we've never seen before. They're positioning for an attack formation. I recommend we charge our main guns and raise shields." Jake thought for a moment. The Liberty was humanity's newest and strongest ship, but it was also untested in real combat. They had come to this sector to explore and hopefully make peaceful contact with alien civilizations. Instead, they had stumbled into what looked like a trap. "Do it," Jake ordered. "Charge weapons and raise shields, but keep trying to communicate. Send them every peace message we have in our database." The Liberty's massive guns began to power up, creating a low humming sound that vibrated through the ship's hull. Energy shields flickered to life around the vessel, creating a faint blue glow against the metal surface. On the alien flagship, Lieutenant Danny Hayes watched his instruments with growing panic. He was young for his position, promoted quickly due to his skill with alien technology, but he had never been in a real battle before. His hands shook as he monitored the human ship's energy signatures. "Sir, the human weapons are charging," he reported to Commander Kethran. "Energy output is increasing rapidly." Kethran's mechanical brain processed this information in microseconds. To him, the human action was clearly aggressive. They had entered coalition space, ignored demands to leave, and now they were preparing to fight. "All ships, the humans are preparing to attack," Kethran broadcast to the other vessels. "I recommend immediate defensive action," Admiral Zexathara snarled, showing sharp teeth. "I knew these primitives would try to fight. Very well. Show them what real power looks like." The alien ships began charging their own weapons, filling space with crackling. energy, and strange lights. Each vessel carried weapons that could crack planets or bend reality itself. They had fought wars across the galaxy for thousands of years, and no enemy had ever survived their combined assault. But Danny Hayes was nervous. His finger hovered over the weapon controls, and sweat ran down his face despite the cool air on the bridge. He had studied human technology and knew they were dangerous when cornered. The Liberty might look primitive, but humans had a reputation for surprises. "Hold position," ordered Admiral Zexathara. "Let them make the first move. Then we will show them why no one challenges the coalition." In the darkness between the ships, tension built like electricity before a storm. The Liberty hung in space, surrounded by enemies but refusing to back down. Her crew waited for orders while alien weapons charged with enough power to destroy cities. Jake Morrison looked at his tactical display and made his decision. They would not fire first, but they would be ready for whatever came next. He had no idea that in a few moments, one nervous alien officer would touch the wrong control and change the nature of warfare forever. The stage was set for a battle that would become legend across the galaxy. The alien weapons fired with the fury of dying stars. Plasma cannons that could melt asteroids discharged their energy across space. Quantum torpedoes that bent reality itself streaked toward the Liberty like angels of destruction. Reality bending. Weapons designed to crack planets unleashed forces that made space itself scream. Captain Jake Morrison watched it all happen in slow motion. From his position on the Liberty's bridge, the incoming weapons looked like beautiful, deadly fireworks, frozen in time. Plasma bolts crept through space like glowing snakes. The quantum torpedoes moved so slowly that he could count their spiral patterns. Even the reality-bending attacks seemed to crawl toward his ship like tired old men. "Incredible," whispered Dr. Helen Wright, staring at her instruments. "The temporal field is deflecting everything. The weapons enter our bubble and immediately slow down to almost nothing." Commander Lisa Park coordinated the ship's defenses with calm efficiency. She had all the time in the world to analyze each incoming attack and plan the perfect response. "Captain, we can dodge everything they're throwing at us. It's like fighting opponents who are standing still." The Liberty moved through the storm of alien fire like a dancer avoiding raindrops. Every shot missed by comfortable margins as the ship glided between attacks that took forever to arrive. The crew worked without stress or panic, having minutes to react to each threat. But on the alien ships, terror was spreading like a disease. Admiral Zexathara watched his most powerful weapons fail against the human ship and felt something he had never experienced before: helplessness. His crimson skin grew pale as he saw attacks that should have destroyed entire fleets simply bounce off or pass harmlessly around the Liberty. "This is impossible," he said, his voice breaking. "Those weapons can crack planets. How are they doing? Nothing to one primitive ship?" Commander Kethran's mechanical brain processed thousands of calculations per second, trying to understand what he was seeing. "Admiral, the human ship appears to exist in multiple time streams simultaneously. Our weapons are effective, but they're hitting the ship in the wrong temporal phase." Captain Veltar sent a psychic scream across the battlefield. "The human minds are like fires in a blizzard. I can barely sense them anymore. They're moving away from us through dimensions I cannot follow." The ancient Captain Mordoon spoke with the weight of eons in his voice. "The old stories were true. Some races can walk between heartbeats when the universe threatens them. We have awakened something that should have stayed sleeping. On the Liberty, The crew began to understand the true scope of their advantage. Lieutenant Commander Nick Brown led his fighter squadrons in attacks that seemed impossible to the aliens. His ships would disappear from alien sensors, only to reappear behind enemy vessels with weapons blazing. "This is like hunting statues," Nick reported over the radio. "They can barely turn their guns before we're gone again." The human fighters moved in and out of the temporal field at will, using the Liberty as a base that existed outside normal time. They would enter the field to rearm and repair, then exit to attack enemies who couldn't react fast enough to defend themselves. Lieutenant Pete Davis targeted the alien weapons with surgical precision. "Captain, I can see exactly where their shots will go before they fire. It's like reading their minds." Jake felt the weight of command as he realized the scope of their power. "Target their weapon systems only. Disable, don't destroy. We're not murderers." The Liberty's weapons reached out across space with deadly accuracy. Each shot was perfectly placed to disable alien guns without killing crews. The human ship fought with a precision that seemed almost supernatural to their enemies. Admiral Zexathara watched his flagship's weapons disappear under precise human fire. The Liberty's guns found every weak point, every vulnerability, with the accuracy of someone who had studied his ship for years. In reality, the humans were simply taking their time to aim perfectly. "Sir, we've lost main weapons," reported his tactical officer. "Engine power is down to 60%. They're cutting us apart piece by piece." Lieutenant Danny Hayes, the officer whose accident had started everything, stared at his console in horror. "Admiral, I'm sorry. I never meant for this to happen. The shot I fired was supposed to be harmless." Zexthara looked at the young officer with something approaching pity. "You have given the humans a weapon that makes gods of mortals. Pray to whatever spirits you believe in that they are merciful gods." Dr. Wright made a breakthrough in her laboratory deep within the Liberty. "Captain, I think I understand what's happening. The temporal field isn't just slowing down their attacks. It's giving us perfect information about their intentions." "Explain." "Doctor," Jake said, dodging another wave of alien fire with casual ease. "Time flows differently for us, but information still connects us to them. We can see the results of their decisions before they finish making them. We know what they'll do because, from our perspective, they've already done it." Chief Engineer Amy Clark worked frantically to understand the temporal core. "Captain, the field is still growing stronger. I'm trying to find a way to control it. But the alien technology we used as a base is more complex than we thought." The battle continued with the humans pressing their impossible advantage. They disabled ship after ship with surgical strikes, always targeting weapons and engines rather than crew compartments. The Liberty moved through the battlefield like a predator among prey, untouchable and deadly. Commander Lisa Park coordinated attacks with mathematical precision. "Sir, we've disabled 3 of their 4 ships. Only the Threnody vessel is still fully operational. Captain Mordun's ancient ship had the most advanced defenses, systems built over thousands of years of warfare. But even his vessel was slowly succumbing to the relentless human assault. Brothers," Mordun's voice reached the other commanders, "we face something beyond our understanding. These humans have turned our own aggression into their strength. Perhaps it is time to consider surrender." "Never!" Zexthara roared. "The Coalition does not surrender to primitives." But his words rang hollow as another perfectly placed human shot destroyed his last functional weapon system. The Vorthon flagship drifted helpless in space, its proud warrior crew reduced to spectators in their own defeat. The Liberty paused in its attack, hanging in space like a metal mountain that had grown tired of violence. Captain Jake Morrison opened a communication channel to the alien fleet. "Alien vessels, this is Captain Morrison of the USS Liberty. Stand down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. You fired first, but we don't want to destroy you. Surrender now, and we can end this without more bloodshed." The words reached the alien ships in normal time, but to the aliens, Jake's voice sounded strange and distorted, as if he was speaking from another dimension. Admiral Zexathara looked at his ruined bridge and made the hardest decision of his military career. In a voice barely above a whisper, he gave the order that would echo across the galaxy. "All ships, stand down weapons. Prepare for human boarding parties." Captain Jake Morrison stood before the main tactical display, studying the disabled alien fleet with careful eyes. The 4 enemy ships hung in space like broken toys, their weapons dark and their engines barely functional. But he knew that surrendering. Ships could still be dangerous, especially when crewed by desperate aliens who had never lost a battle before. "Major Kelly Stone, report to the bridge," Jake announced over the ship's intercom. Within minutes, the Liberty's Marine commander arrived, her combat armor gleaming under the bridge lights. Kelly was a veteran of humanity's colonial wars, tough as steel and twice as sharp. She had trained her Marines for boarding actions against alien vessels, though none of them had expected to face technology this advanced. "What's the situation, Captain?" 4 disabled enemy ships, crews unknown but presumed hostile, Jake replied. "I need boarding teams to secure their vessels and take prisoners. But we have an advantage they don't know about yet." Dr. Helen Wright looked up from her tablet, her eyes bright with discovery. "Captain, I've figured out how to control the temporal field's intensity and range. We can create localized bubbles of distorted time around our boarding parties." Jake smiled grimly. "Explain." "We can give our Marines the same advantage we have," Helen said. "Time distortion fields that make them nearly impossible to hit while making their enemies move like they're underwater." Major Stone grinned, showing teeth that had seen too many battles. "Ma'am, my Marines have been hoping for a chance to field test some new equipment. This sounds like the perfect opportunity." Chief Engineer Amy Clark's voice came over the intercom. "Captain, I've been working with Dr. Wright's data. We can create portable temporal generators small enough for individual soldiers to carry. The power drain will be enormous, but we can maintain the effect for about 30 minutes per unit." "Do it," Jake ordered. "How long until the equipment is ready?" "Give us 2 hours, sir," Amy replied. "We're basically building time machines, the size of backpacks. It's not exactly standard procedure." While the engineering teams worked, Jake studied the alien ships through the Liberty's sensors. Each vessel represented a different approach to warfare. The Vorthan ship was built for direct assault, covered in heavy armor and bristling with weapons. The Kalari vessel was sleek and efficient, designed by artificial intelligence for maximum effectiveness. The Nexari ship had strange curves and flowing lines that hurt to look at directly. The Threnody vessel was the most mysterious, its hull covered in markings that seemed to shift and change when no one was watching. Commander Lisa Park coordinated with the ship's intelligence officers to gather data on each enemy vessel. "Captain, we're detecting life signs on all 4 ships. The crews are still alive, but their life support systems are damaged. If we're going to board them, we need to do it soon." Lieutenant Commander Nick Brown approached the captain with a tactical plan. "Sir, my fighters can provide escort for the boarding shuttles. With our temporal advantage, we can guarantee safe passage through any defensive fire." 2 hours later, Major Stone's Marines gathered in the Liberty's main hangar bay. Each soldier wore experimental equipment that made them look like warriors. From the far future, the portable temporal generators were built into their armor's back plates, connected to their weapons and life support systems through fiber optic cables that glowed with soft blue light. "Listen up, Marines," Kelly announced to her troops. "We're about to do something that's never been done before. These temporal generators will give you the same advantage our ship has been using. You'll move at normal speed while everything else slows down around you." Sergeant Carl Davis, Pete's older brother, raised his hand. "Ma'am, what happens if the generators fail while we're on enemy ships?" "Then you fight like Marines have always fought," Kelly replied. "With skill, courage, and really big guns. Questions?" There were no questions. The Marines had trained for this moment their entire careers, and they were ready to make history. The boarding shuttles launched from the Liberty's hangar bay, small craft designed to carry troops directly into enemy vessels. Chief Pilot Ryan Cole led the formation, his hands steady on the controls despite the incredible danger of their mission. "This is going to be interesting," Ryan muttered to his co-pilot. "Flying support for Marines who can manipulate time itself." The shuttles approached the alien flagship first, the massive Vorthon vessel that had started the battle. Admiral Zexathara watched them come through his damaged view screen, his red skin pale with defeat and confusion. "Sir, should we resist?" asked his tactical officer. Zexathara looked around his ruined bridge at the crew members who had served him faithfully for decades. "With what? Our weapons are gone, our engines are dying, and the humans have powers we cannot understand. Let them come. Perhaps we can learn something before we die." The human shuttles clamped onto the Vorthon ship's hull with mechanical precision. Cutting torches began burning through the alien metal, creating entry points that glowed like tiny stars. Within minutes, the first human Marines stepped onto an enemy vessel, their temporal generators humming with barely contained energy. Sergeant Davis activated his generator and felt the universe change around him. The alien corridor became a frozen tableau, with emergency lights blinking so slowly that each flash lasted several seconds. Debris from the battle hung motionless in the air, and even the sound of his own breathing seemed strange and distant. "Temporal generators active," he reported over his radio. "Moving to secure the bridge." The human Marines moved through the alien ship like ghosts, walking between raindrops. Vorthon warriors tried to resist, but their movements were so slow that the humans could simply walk around their attacks. Weapons fire crept through the air at speeds that would embarrass a thrown rock. On the Liberty's bridge, Captain Jake watched the boarding operation through helmet cameras worn by his Marines. "Incredible," he said. "They're not even fighting. They're just walking through the battle." Major Stone's voice came over the radio, calm and professional. "Bridge secured, Captain. No casualties on either side. The aliens are more confused than hostile." The same scene played out on all four enemy ships. Human Marines walked through desperate alien defenses as if they were museum displays. Weapons that could vaporize normal soldiers simply couldn't track targets that moved between moments like living shadows. Dr. Wright monitored the temporal generators from her laboratory. "Captain, the power consumption is enormous, but the effect is perfect. Our people are literally existing in accelerated time while their enemies experience everything in slow motion. Within an hour, all 4 alien vessels had been secured without a single human casualty. The enemy crews were taken prisoner with such ease that many of them never realized they were being captured until human Marines were standing beside them. With weapons drawn, Admiral Zexathara found himself face-to-face with Major Stone in what had once been his command center. The human woman looked impossibly calm and professional, as if capturing alien flagships was just another day at the office. "Admiral," Kelly said through her suit's translator, "you and your crew are now prisoners of war. You will be treated according to human military law, which means you will not be harmed if you cooperate." Zexathara stared at the human marine with something approaching awe. "Your people have powers that make gods jealous. What do you want from us?" "Information," Kelly replied, "and an explanation for why you attacked our ship without provocation." The alien admiral looked around his captured bridge, at his crew sitting under guard by human marines who seemed to flicker in and out of normal reality. "We attacked because we thought you were primitives trying to challenge our authority. We were wrong about everything." Back on the Liberty, Captain Jake Morrison reviewed the reports from all 4 boarding operations. Not a single human had been injured, while the alien crews had been captured with minimal resistance. The temporal technology had turned what should have been a bloody battle into something that looked more like a training exercise. "Sir," Commander Park reported, "all enemy vessels are secure. We have over 4,000 alien prisoners and enough captured technology to keep our scientists busy for decades." Jake nodded, but his expression remained serious. "The easy part is over, Lisa. Now we have to figure out what to do with them." Admiral Zexathara stared at the tactical display in his captured command center, watching as more alien ships appeared at the edge of sensor range. His distress signal had reached the Coalition's main fleet, and now 12 additional warships were racing toward the battle site at maximum speed. "Captain Morrison," Zexathara said to the human officer who had come aboard to interrogate prisoners, "my reinforcements will arrive in 30 minutes. They will not surrender as easily as we did." Jake Morrison looked at the approaching fleet with calm eyes. The ships were larger than the ones they had already defeated, including 2 massive dreadnoughts that could probably destroy entire star systems. But he felt no fear, only a quiet confidence that came from understanding just how powerful his ship had become. "Admiral, I appreciate the warning," Jake replied, "but I think you're underestimating what we're capable of." Zexathara's red skin darkened with worry. "Captain, those ships carry weapons that can ignite planets. Their crews are veterans of 100 wars. They will not hesitate to destroy everything in this sector to stop you." Jake activated his communicator. "Liberty, this is Morrison. We have 12 additional hostiles incoming. Prepare for full temporal combat." Dr. Helen Wright's voice came through clearly. "Captain, the temporal generators are fully charged. We can extend the field to cover a much larger area now. Those reinforcements won't know what hit them." Back on the Liberty's bridge, Chief Engineer Amy Clark worked with her, teamed to prepare for the largest temporal manipulation attempt in human history. "Dr. Wright, are you sure the core can handle this much power?" "The feedback loop is stable," Helen replied, checking her calculations for the 10th time. "We're essentially creating a bubble of accelerated time around our entire battle group. Everything inside moves at normal speed. Everything outside moves like thick syrup." The reinforcement fleet arrived with the confidence of predators who had never met their match. Fleet Admiral Gorthax commanded from the bridge of the largest dreadnought, a ship so massive that entire cities could fit inside its hull. "Report!" Gorthax demanded as his ships took position around the battle site. "Sir, the advance fleet has been captured by a single human vessel," reported his tactical officer. "Admiral Zexathara's ship is still transmitting, but under enemy control." Gorthax studied the tactical display with growing anger. The human ship looked impressive, but primitive compared to his dreadnoughts. One ship defeated 4 of our best vessels? Impossible. Sir, Admiral Zexathara is sending additional data. The humans appear to have some kind of temporal manipulation technology. Nonsense, Gorthax snarled. Temporal warfare is theoretical, at best. No race has ever successfully weaponized time itself. On the Liberty, Captain Jake Morrison watched the alien reinforcements deploy into attack formation. Their movements were confident and professional, the actions of a military force that had conquered half the galaxy through superior firepower and tactics. "Captain," Commander Lisa Park reported, "the alien fleet is moving to surround us. 12 ships, including 2 dreadnoughts. Combined firepower is approximately 50 times what we faced before." Jake smiled grimly. "They're about to learn the same lesson their friends did. Dr. Wright, activate full temporal field extension." The Liberty's temporal core hummed with power that bordered on the divine. Energy flowed through systems that barely understood their own function, creating effects that would have seemed impossible just hours before. The temporal field expanded outward like an invisible bubble, encompassing not just the Liberty, but the entire battle zone. Fleet Admiral Gorthax watched his tactical display in confusion as every ship in his fleet suddenly began moving through space like swimmers in honey. "What is happening to my ships?" "Sir, we're detecting massive temporal distortions," his science officer reported, voice tight with panic. "Time itself is moving differently around the human vessel." The Liberty began to move with the fluid grace of a dancer, weaving between the sluggish alien ships like a shark among sleeping whales. Her weapons reached out with perfect accuracy, striking each enemy vessel in precisely the right spot to disable weapons without destroying crews. Jake Morrison coordinated the battle from his command chair, watching as his ship systematically dismantled the most powerful fleet in this part of the galaxy. "Target their engine rooms. I want them stranded, not dead." The human weapons found their marks with supernatural precision. Dreadnoughts that had terrorized entire star systems found their massive guns going silent one by one. Escort vessels, designed for speed, discovered their engines failing under precisely targeted fire. Fleet Admiral Gorthax realized with growing horror that his mighty fleet was being defeated by a single enemy ship that seemed to exist outside the normal flow of time. "All ships, ramming speed! If we cannot outfight them, we will destroy them through sacrifice." But even this desperate tactic failed. The alien ships moved so slowly through the temporal field that the Liberty had minutes to react to each ramming attempt. Jake's ship danced, away from every collision course with casual ease, sometimes firing disabling shots while the enemy vessels were still building up speed. Major Kelly Stone led her Marines in boarding actions against the larger ships, her temporal-equipped soldiers walking through alien defenses like they were moving through a museum. "Captain, we're securing the dreadnoughts now. No resistance worth mentioning." The battle became a rout, then a rescue mission as human boarding. Parties worked to save alien crews from their own damaged ships. The temporal advantage was so complete that the humans could afford to be merciful, disabling enemies without killing them and capturing prisoners without casualties. Dr. Wright monitored the temporal field from her laboratory, amazed by what humanity had accomplished. "Captain, we've successfully captured or disabled 16 alien warships without losing a single human life. The temporal technology is performing beyond our wildest expectations." Admiral Zexathara watched the destruction of the Coalition fleet from his position as prisoner aboard his own flagship. "Captain Morrison," he said quietly, You have just defeated the most powerful military force in this sector of the galaxy. What do you intend to do with that power? Jake considered the question carefully. The Liberty now controlled space around them absolutely, and thousands of alien prisoners looked to him for their fate. We're going home, Admiral. We came here to explore and learn, not to conquer. You could rule this entire sector, Zexathera said with something approaching awe. Your technology makes you gods of war. We don't want to rule anyone, Jake replied. We just want to be left alone to live our lives in peace. The alien admiral stared at the human captain as if seeing a completely new form of life. You have the power to conquer, but you choose not to. I do not understand your species. That's probably for the best, Jake said with a small smile. We barely understand ourselves most of the time. The Liberty prepared to depart, leaving behind a field of disabled but repairable alien ships. Before leaving, Jake opened a communication channel to broadcast across the entire sector. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel USS Liberty. We came here in peace and were attacked without provocation. We defended ourselves using technology you do not understand and cannot counter. We could have destroyed your fleets, but we chose mercy instead. Remember this day, and remember that humanity offers friendship to those who approach us with peaceful intentions. To those who choose aggression, we offer this demonstration of what awaits you. The message would reach every civilization within 50 light years, carried by automated beacons and quantum communication networks. Within days, the story of the time-lock battle would spread across half the galaxy. As the Liberty jumped to hyperspace, heading back toward human space, the disabled alien ships were left to contemplate what they had witnessed. Fleet Admiral Gorthax sat in his darkened command center, staring at displays that showed impossible things. "Sir," his tactical officer asked quietly, "what do we report to Coalition Command?" Gorthax was quiet for a long time before answering. "We tell them the truth. We tell them that humanity has become something new, something that can turn the universe itself into a weapon. And we tell them that if they are wise, they will never threaten human space again." The Liberty sailed through hyperspace toward home, her crew still amazed by what they had accomplished. Captain Jake Morrison stood on his bridge, looking at stars that seemed different somehow, as if the universe itself had acknowledged humanity's new place in the cosmic order. "Sir," Commander Park asked, "what happens when we reach Earth? How do we explain what we've discovered?" Jake smiled, thinking of the changes that would sweep through human civilization when news of the temporal technology spread. "We tell them that humanity just graduated from being the new kids in the galaxy, and we make sure we're ready for whatever comes next." Behind them, in the wreckage of the greatest fleet defeat in Coalition history, alien survivors would spend years trying to understand what they had witnessed. The humans had proven that sometimes the greatest weapon is not the ability to destroy, but the wisdom to show mercy when destruction would be easy. The galaxy would never be the same. The USS Liberty drifted through the void between star systems, her massive hull dark except for the soft glow of running lights. Captain Jake Morrison had decided to take a different route home, avoiding the main shipping lanes where other species might detect their passage. The alien prisoners needed time to recover from their injuries, and his crew needed time to understand what they had discovered. Dr. Helen Wright worked alone in her laboratory, surrounded by alien technology that defied human understanding. The pieces they had salvaged from the disabled enemy ships contained secrets that went far beyond simple weapons and engines. She had found references to something called the Deep Archives, ancient records that spoke of races that had mastered time itself. "Captain, you need to see this," Helen called over the intercom, her voice tight with excitement and fear. Jake arrived at the laboratory to find Helen staring at a holographic display showing symbols that seemed to shift and change when he looked at them directly. The writing appeared to be some form of ancient alien script, far older than anything the Coalition species used. "What am I looking at, Doctor?" Jake asked, studying the flowing symbols that hurt his eyes. "These are records from the Threnody ship," Helen explained. "Captain Morden's vessel carried archives that date back millions of years. According to these files, there have been other races that developed temporal manipulation technology." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Other races? What happened to them? Helen manipulated the holographic controls, bringing up new sections of the ancient text. "That's the disturbing part, Captain. According to these records, every species that mastered time manipulation eventually disappeared. Not destroyed, not conquered. They simply vanished from normal space-time." Chief Engineer Amy Clark entered the laboratory, carrying a damaged piece of alien technology that hummed with strange energy. "Dr. Wright, I've been analyzing the temporal resonance patterns from our captured equipment. The readings don't match anything in our databases." "Show me," Helen said, connecting Amy's device to the main display system. The holographic projector created a three-dimensional map of energy patterns that pulsed with colors that had no names. The patterns were beautiful and terrifying at the same time, showing flows of power that seemed to exist outside normal physics. "Amy, these patterns are identical to the ones mentioned in the ancient archives," Helen said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We're not the first species to accidentally discover temporal manipulation, but we might be the first to survive it." Jake studied the energy patterns with growing concern. "Dr. Wright, are you saying our temporal technology is dangerous in ways we don't understand?" "Captain, I'm saying we've stumbled onto something that has destroyed entire civilizations," Helen replied. "The archives mention races called the Eternal Seekers, the Time Walkers, and the Moment Masters. All of them developed the ability to manipulate time, and all of them vanished without explanation." Amy connected additional alien devices to the display system, creating a more complete picture of the temporal energy flows around the Liberty. "Dr. Wright, look at this. Our ship is generating the same resonance patterns that appear in these ancient records. The holographic display showed the Liberty surrounded by invisible currents of temporal energy that flowed like rivers through space-time. The patterns were growing stronger and more complex with each passing hour, as if the ship's temporal core was evolving beyond human control. Commander Lisa Park's voice came over the intercom from the bridge. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from one of our alien prisoners. Admiral Zex Thara is requesting an immediate meeting with you." Jake looked at Helen and Amy with concern. "Doctor, keep working on those archives. I need to know everything about these vanished civilizations. Amy, monitor the temporal core for any unusual activity." The captain made his way to the detention section where the alien prisoners were being held in comfortable but secure quarters. Admiral Zexathara waited in his cell, the proud Vorthan warrior looking older and more frightened than Jake had ever seen him. "Captain Morrison," Zexathara said as Jake approached, "I must speak with you about matters that could determine the fate of both our species." Jake activated the cell's communication system while maintaining the force field barrier. "Admiral, what's so urgent that it couldn't wait for our regular interrogation sessions?" Zexathera moved closer to the barrier, his red skin pale with worry. Captain, your ship is generating temporal signatures that match ancient warnings in our oldest historical records. You are walking the same path as the Vanished Ones. The Vanished Ones? Jake asked, remembering Helen's discovery of similar references in the Threnody archives. Races that mastered time and then disappeared from the galaxy, Zexathera explained. The Coalition has standing orders to destroy any species that develops temporal manipulation technology, not out of malice, but out of fear of what happened to those who came before. Jake felt pieces of a larger puzzle beginning to fit together. Admiral, you attacked us because you were afraid we would vanish like these other races? We attacked you because we were afraid you would take the galaxy with you when you disappeared, Zexathera replied grimly. The ancient records speak of temporal cascades that can unravel reality itself. Captain, your people may have accidentally discovered the most dangerous force in the universe. Dr. Wright's voice came over Jake's communicator with urgent news. Captain, I've translated more of the Threnody archives. The Vanished Ones didn't just disappear. They were pulled into something called the Deep Time, a realm that exists between moments where normal physics don't apply. Jake felt the weight of cosmic responsibility settling on his shoulders. Dr. Wright, is there any way to reverse the process? Can we stop whatever is happening to our ship? The archives mention attempts by various species to control temporal manipulation, but the records become incomplete toward the end, Helen replied. It's as if the civilization stopped existing in the middle of their research. Amy Clark's voice joined the conversation from engineering. Captain, the temporal core is showing increased activity. The energy patterns are becoming more complex and self-sustaining. I don't think we can shut it down even if we wanted to. Admiral Zexathera listened to the human conversation with growing alarm. Captain Morrison, if your scientists cannot control this technology, you must destroy your ship before it reaches critical temporal mass. The alternative could be the end of normal space-time in this entire sector of the galaxy. Jake looked at the alien admiral with new understanding. The Coalition's attack on the Liberty hadn't been motivated by aggression or territorial expansion. They had been trying to prevent what they saw as an existential threat to all life in the galaxy. Admiral, assuming you're telling the truth, how long do we have before this temporal cascade becomes unstoppable? Jake asked. Zexathera consulted his knowledge of ancient records and modern observations. Based on the energy signatures your ship is producing, I estimate between 6 and 8 of your Earth days. After that, the temporal field will become self-sustaining and begin expanding exponentially. Dr. Wright's voice came over the communicator with a mixture of hope and desperation. Captain, I found something in the deepest layers of the archives. There's a reference to a species called the Time Guardians who apparently found a way to stabilize temporal manipulation technology. But the location of their homeworld is encoded in symbols I can't translate. Jake made a decision that would determine the fate of not just his crew, but potentially all life in the galaxy. Dr. Wright, work with Admiral Zexathera to decode those symbols. We're going to find these Time Guardians and learn how to control what we've unleashed. The Liberty changed course toward coordinates that existed in myths and legends, carrying the hopes and fears of multiple species toward a destination that might not even exist anymore. The USS Liberty approached the coordinates from the ancient Threnody archives, but space around them looked empty and cold. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the main display show nothing but distant stars and cosmic dust. According to the translated records, this should be the location of the Time Guardian homeworld, but their sensors detected no planets, no structures, nothing that suggested intelligent life had ever existed here. Captain, Are we sure these coordinates are correct? Commander Lisa Park asked from her tactical station. I'm not reading any planetary bodies or artificial structures within scanning range. Dr. Helen Wright worked at a portable console she had brought to the bridge, comparing the ancient symbols with their current position. The coordinates match perfectly, but the archives are millions of years old. It's possible the star system was destroyed or moved. Admiral Zexathera had been brought to the bridge under guard to help interpret the alien records. The Vorthon warrior studied the empty space ahead with growing concern. Captain Morrison, the ancient texts speak of the time guardians existing between moments. Perhaps they are here, but not in a way our instruments can detect. Chief Engineer Amy Clark's voice came over the intercom from the engine room. Captain, the temporal core is showing strange readings. It's like something out there is calling to it. Jake felt a familiar chill of uncertainty. Amy, what kind of readings? The temporal field around our ship is fluctuating in patterns I've never seen before, Amy replied. It's almost like the core is trying to synchronize with something nearby. Dr. Wright looked up from her console with sudden understanding. Captain, what if the Time Guardians didn't disappear like the other races? What if they learned to exist permanently outside normal time? Before Jake could respond, the space around the Liberty began to change. Reality seemed to ripple like water, and stars shifted position as if the universe itself was being rewritten. The emptiness ahead of them filled with structures that appeared to be made of crystallized time itself, buildings that existed in multiple moments simultaneously. My God, whispered Lieutenant Danny Hayes from the communications station. Captain, are you seeing this? A massive city materialized around the Liberty, floating in space without any visible means of support. The buildings were impossible geometries that hurt to look at directly, constructed from materials that seemed to shift between solid matter and pure energy. Streets wound through the air in spirals that defied physics, and towers reached toward infinity while also extending backward through time. All stop, Jake ordered. Full defensive positions, but do not charge weapons unless I give the order. The city pulsed with temporal energy that made the Liberty's experimental core look like a child's toy. Waves of distorted time flowed between the structures like rivers of liquid minutes, and the very air seemed thick with compressed moments that had been stretched across eons. Commander Park studied her tactical displays with amazement and fear. Captain, I'm reading life signs throughout the city, but they're unlike anything in our databases. The readings suggest beings that exist in multiple time streams simultaneously. A voice reached them through the ship's communication system, speaking in perfect English despite coming from creatures that had never encountered humanity before. The words seemed to arrive before they were spoken, and echoes of the message continued long after it had ended. Humans of the vessel Liberty, you are welcome in the domain of the Time Guardians. We have been expecting your arrival for approximately 3 million of your years. Jake stepped forward to address the mysterious beings. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth Space Forces. We seek knowledge about temporal manipulation technology and how to control it safely. Your request is known to us, Captain Morrison, the voice replied. We observed your species' first experiments with time distortion and the consequences that followed. You stand at the same crossroads that destroyed countless civilizations before you. The main display screen activated, showing images of the beings they were speaking with. The Time Guardians appeared to be tall, ethereal creatures made of shifting light and temporal energy. They had no fixed form, constantly flowing between different states of existence while maintaining a sense of ancient wisdom that spoke of eons spent mastering time itself. Time Guardians, Jake said respectfully. We've learned that other species developed temporal technology and then vanished. We need to understand how to prevent the same fate from befalling humanity. One of the Guardians stepped forward, its form stabilizing enough to show features that might once have been similar to various galactic species. Captain, we are the survivors of the first race to master temporal manipulation. We did not vanish, like the others. We chose to exist outside normal time to prevent our technology from destroying the galaxy. Dr. Wright activated her recording equipment to capture every word of the conversation. Guardian, can you teach us how to control temporal manipulation without causing a cascade effect? Dr. Wright of the human species, the Guardian replied, somehow knowing her name and profession. Temporal manipulation is not a technology to be controlled. It is a force of nature as fundamental as gravity or electromagnetism. The civilizations that vanished tried to master time. They were consumed by it instead. Admiral Zexthara spoke up from his position under guard. Honored Guardians, the Coalition attacks any species that develops temporal technology because we fear another cascade event. Are we wrong to be afraid? The Guardian turned its attention to the alien admiral with something that might have been sympathy. Admiral Zexthara of the Vorthon Empire, your fear is justified, but your methods are flawed. Destroying species that discover temporal manipulation only delays the inevitable. Time seeks balance, and it will continue creating opportunities for discovery until that balance is achieved. Amy Clark's voice came over the intercom with urgent news. Captain, the temporal core is resonating with the Guardian City. The energy patterns are stabilizing in ways I've never seen before. That is correct, Chief Engineer Clark, the Guardian said. Your species has reached the temporal threshold differently than others. Most races discover time manipulation through scientific research. Humanity stumbled upon it through accident and conflict. This difference may be the key to your survival. Jake felt hope rising in his chest. Guardian, are you saying humanity can learn to use temporal technology safely? We are saying that humanity's chaotic approach to temporal manipulation may be exactly what the universe needs, the Guardian replied. Other species tried to impose order on time. Humans have learned to work with chaos. This may allow you to achieve balance where others failed. Dr. Wright leaned forward with scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. Guardian, what do you mean? By balance? The Guardian gestured toward the impossible city around them. Time is not meant to be controlled, Dr. Wright. It is meant to be partnered with. We learn to exist in harmony with temporal forces rather than trying to dominate them. Your species shows the same potential. Major Kelly Stone's voice came over the intercom from the Marine barracks. Captain, my temporal combat gear is responding to something in this city. The generators are operating at efficiency levels I've never seen before. Major Stone, the Guardian said, somehow hearing her words. Your combat applications of temporal technology demonstrate humanity's unique approach. You use time as a tool for protection rather than domination. This is wisdom that other species never achieved. Jake realized they were being offered something unprecedented. Guardian, will you teach us how to achieve this balance? Captain Morrison, we will do more than teach you. We will offer humanity membership in the Temporal Accord, an alliance of species that have learned to exist in harmony with time itself. But the choice must be made by all of humanity, not just by you. The weight of the decision pressed down on Jake's shoulders. What would membership in this accord require? It would require humanity to become guardians of temporal balance throughout the galaxy, the Guardian replied. You would help other species learn to use time safely rather than destroying them for attempting to do so. You would become teachers, instead of conquerors. Jake looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew, seeing the same mixture of wonder and responsibility that he felt. Humanity stood at a crossroads that would determine not just their own future, but the future of time itself throughout the galaxy.